everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here on the Revolution Manchester webinar. My name is Kieran Mullen. I'm from the Nerve Centre in Derry, and we facilitate the Northern Ireland Science Festival. And we're joined today by the amazing team at the Science and Industry Museum in Manchester. So before I pass you over to them, I'm going to go through a little bit of housekeeping. This is a webinar, so you can hear and see us, but we cannot hear and see you. So if you're experiencing any kind of technical difficulties, or if you have any questions, do feel free to pop them into the chat box. Our guests will have time at the end to answer any questions you may have. You will notice at the bottom of your screen, there are subtitles and closed captions available if you need them. They are AI generated, so the accuracy of them may be out of our control. So all covered, I'm going to hand you over to our guest speakers from the Science and Industry Museum in Manchester, who are going to basically take us through the history of the Industrial Revolution in Manchester, from steam power through to cutting edge scientific research.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Science and Industry Museum. My name's Andy.
I'm Mira.
And we are here to present to you our wonderful Revolution Manchester show. We are live streaming to you from the wonderful 1830 warehouse, the oldest railway warehouse anywhere in the whole wide world. During the show, we're going to take you on a whistle-stop tour of some of the amazing stuff that's been created in Manchester over the last few hundred years. During the show, we're going to be asking and answering lots of questions. We are going to attempt to fly some stuff across this stage area, and we're going to have a bit of an explosion. But don't worry, if you're scared of big bangs and loud noises, I'll give you plenty of warning before we blow anybody up.
Lovely. So this is our Revolution Manchester show. So I think we should start off with a super easy question.
Why not?
Andy, help me out. What is a revolution?
Okay, so is revolution to do with things going round and round in a circle?
Oh, it's a bit like that, yeah. So a revolution could go round and round and round, but it also means change. It's when things change, hopefully for the better. And right here in Manchester, we were the home of a lot of revolutions that changed not just our city, but the entire world. So we're going to go through a couple of them with us today. Where should we start?
Okay, so to begin our story, what we need to do is we need to imagine ourselves back in time. We need to imagine ourselves back 250 years to the very birth of the city of Manchester. And boy, did it look really different in those days compared with our wonderful city with its huge high-rise towers and wonderful buildings. Because, folks, 250 years ago, Manchester wasn't a city, wasn't even a town. It was just a couple of villages, mostly surrounded by trees, fields and countryside. But in those villages, there were Mancunians, and they're all working really hard with...
Well, it was with this stuff. This sort of fluffy white stuff I'm holding here. What do you think, Andy? What might this be?
Is it wool?
Oh, it's not wool. It looks a bit like it, but
Okay.
we get wool from a sheep.
Okay.
This stuff comes from a plant, because it is, in fact, cotton.
Okay.
So we're going to start to work with cotton in our villages in Manchester and go on to create lots of different textile goods. Things like your jumper, my t-shirt, your bed sheets, your towels, your curtains, all sorts of different things you might have. But we've got a bit of a problem with this.
Okay.
You see, it's lovely and soft at this stage. Cotton's been brushed out. It's nice and smooth, but it's very, very weak.
Oh, dear.
I can just pull this apart. Now, if you can imagine you were wearing clothes made out of this, and it was a typical windy, rainy Manchester day, big gust of wind, all your clothes are going to fall off. That's not going to be good for anyone involved.
That would be embarrassing for everybody, I think.
So what we need to do is make this stronger. What do we think? Any ideas?
Okay, so could we add something to the cotton to make it stronger?
Exactly. We're going to add a very special force, the force called friction. Now, friction is one we're going to be spinning our cotton. We're going to start to twist it. The friction between the fibres binds the cotton together, making it stronger and thinner until this fluffy stuff is thin enough to be thread, and we can start to weave with it. Now, we're going to show you just how strong cotton gets just from spinning it with a game of tug-of-war. That's your end, Andy. Are we ready?
Okay.
Pull! Oh, that is not coming apart
Wow,
at all.
really, really strong.
Excellent.
That is amazing.
So we started spinning this in our homes, making more thread as we went into textiles, but we didn't stop there, did we?
No. At the same time this was happening in villages in Manchester, rich landowners in the local area caught wind of this industry, and they realised that they could turn a huge profit from it if they just changed the way that it was being done. And this led to the first revolution in Manchester's history, because we went away from being part of the countryside to becoming the world's first industrial city. Because what those rich landowners did is they built huge, great big buildings called mills in what is now Manchester's city centre. They populated those buildings with hundreds and hundreds of spinning machines and weaving machines in an effort to make as much cotton as quickly as they could so they could turn a great big profit. But it's all well and good having a great big building full of machines. It's no good without anybody to operate them. And this led to the second revolution in Manchester's history, because the population exploded from about 1,000 people in those villages to tens of thousands of new citizens of Manchester as workers flooded in from the surrounding countryside to work in those mills. Now, this is great news for the mill owners. Got the workforce on the doorstep, ready to go, 6 o'clock sharp every morning. But if you're a mill worker yourself, it wasn't such good news. Your living conditions and working conditions were dreadful. In fact, where you were living, it would probably be you and maybe another family sharing just one room between all of you. You'd have no proper heating, no access to fresh running water, and Mira, up to 40 families had to share one toilet between all of them. And that would get a bit whiffy towards the end of the working day. And unfortunately for the workers, it also led to a lot of them contracting some pretty nasty diseases.
Now, we had the workers in the mills powering these machines, but as the machines got bigger, they got faster. We need something better than just our own muscles to move this machine.
Okay.
We need another revolution to come and help us out.
Fantastic.
And this stuff that's going to power our cotton machines, you might have seen it already.
Okay.
Tell me, Andy, you're waking up in the morning, you're getting ready to go to work. Did you start your day with a lovely hot shower?
No, I didn't quite have time this morning.
Oh, I'm going to move this way. That's a bit smelly. Okay.
Sorry.
I guess I'll have to forgive you that one.
Thank you.
But maybe you started your day then with a hot drink. Teas,
I did,
coffees?
yes, a lovely cup of coffee.
Oh, nice start to your day. Now, when you put your kettle on to make your coffee, is anything coming out the top?
Ah, yeah, I saw some stuff piling out of the end of the kettle, and it was rising above my cup of coffee whilst it was on the kitchen table.
It would have been, exactly. Do you know what that is called?
That would be steam, I think.
That is steam, exactly. Now, steam is going to come to Manchester. It is going to power all of our machines. Now, we couldn't fit a giant steam engine in our machine, in our room right here, because that is going to squidge all of us. So instead, on my way to work today, I popped into Aldi. It's got a brilliant middle aisle, and I picked up my very own steamer. So we're going to have a little look at steam in just a moment. Let me get my PPE on. Now, are we ready to see some steam?
Let's see the power of raw steam, Mira. Now we've got boiling water, that's packed full of potential energy. Now let's see the power of raw steam in action.
In action. Now, do we think that this lovely little wispy stuff can move anything?
How about trying to move one of those boxes,
These
Mira?
ones right here.
Yeah, I think you
give
can
a
do
go.
it.
Let's see if my powerful steamer can move the box clear off the others.
Let's
Can you give
hope
me a
so.
countdown from 3, Andy?
Okay, are we ready, everybody? In 3, 2, 1, go!
Oh!
That's
Is that
not
working?
moved anywhere, has it? It's not moved a millimetre, Mira.
It's not moved anything.
No.
That's because steam on its own is pretty weak. It's
Okay.
not going to do much. Look, that's not going to move my box. That's not going to clean my floor or do anything.
Not at all.
But if this is going to power a steam machine, what we need to do is trap it.
Okay.
And we're going to do that today with the help of the humble balloon.
Brilliant.
Now, if you don't really like loud noises, this might be the part where you just want to put your hands over your ears because it might get a little bit loud. What do we think might happen now that the steam going in the balloon?
Okay, I think the balloon is going to expand and get bigger, and then eventually, when the pressure builds up, that balloon is going to pop.
All right, we think there might be a bit of
Okay.
an explosion as we put more pressure in the balloon. Potential energy
Getting bigger.
rises. Let's see if it's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, what do we think? Should we do countdown from 10?
I think we could try a countdown from
do it.
10.
Big
Are we
voices.
ready, buddy, out there? Here we go. In
10, 9, 8, 7,
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
0.
Oh,
Oh, -1.
it's still
-2.
going.
This is called expansion. experimenting, you never know when it's going to happen.
Welcome to the world of
Manchester's
science.
got loads of experiments. Down the road, there's a street called Dalton Street. That was named after a man who experimented walking up a hill. We now know how to measure a big hill. Any good experiments?
And we also have James Jewell, who worked out the link between heat, energy and work whilst working in a brewery just up the road in Cheetham Hill. And also, just over the road on Cross Street, we had John Benjamin Dancer making some amazing microscopes and measuring devices. Should we have another countdown, Mira?
Let's go, let's go. Whoa! Oh, it was quicker than us, that one.
Who needed the countdown?
Well, we saw just how powerful our steam was.
Fantastic. And the scientists and engineers of the time made use of that principle in machines called steam engines. And soon, every mill in Manchester were running all of their machines using their very own steam engines. And this meant that Manchester was producing so much cotton that it became known as Cottonopolis, the city of cotton. And at the height of its powers, Manchester was producing 70% of all the world's cotton products. And you know what that means, don't you?
What is it?
That means that 7 out of 10 people around the world were wearing pants made in Manchester. And that, I think, is something that we should be incredibly proud of.
Yes.
But, you know, those scientists and engineers, they're brilliant at adapting something like a steam engine to a new and different situation.
Keep going.
And you've got to remember that at this point in history, the only way for most people to travel was using their legs, walking and running, or if you were very lucky, you might have been able to borrow a horse and cart. If you were moving stuff, you'd have to use a canal and a canal barge, and that would take forever. But these scientists and engineers, they realised that they could use a steam engine to create a brand new form of transport that was going to take people and materials faster than they had ever gone before in the history of time. So, Mira, do you know the type of transport that uses a steam engine? Goes a bit like this.
Oh, I recognise those wheels. Is there a famous one called Thomas?
There is, exactly right.
I think I know what this is. I think it is the steam train.
Exactly. And once again, the arrival of the steam train revolutionised Manchester and went on to revolutionise the world. Now, as we mentioned already, we are live streaming to you from the 1830 warehouse. And most of our site of our museum is part of the site of the world's first intercity passenger and goods railway station. And when that opened just over the road there on Liverpool Road in 1830, revolutionised Manchester forever. Because the railway from that station joined Manchester to the port of Liverpool by rail for the first time. And it meant that you could now get between the two cities in just over an hour. So all sorts of new stuff flooded into Manchester. New products, new toys, new materials, new foods from around the world. And you could even get fresh fish for your breakfast now every morning if you wanted, because it would come in on the breakfast train from Liverpool. But you know what, Mira?
Yeah.
If you were a worker from one of those factories and you were lucky enough to be travelling on one of those trains one day, do you know what might happen?
Yeah, go on.
You might not be sharing your train with other people.
Oh.
You might not even be sharing your train with stuff. You might actually be sharing your train with some animals. Exactly.
On my train?
And what I would like you to do, and everybody out there can join in with us, we would like you to guess which animals were housed here in this warehouse next to the station in 1830. Now, to help you out, we're going to give you 3 choices. So your first choice of animal is a cow. Now, Mira, can you make a noise like a cow?
Okay, so moo, are we ready? And moo!
Pretty good, I'm sure you'll agree. Your second choice of animal is a lion. What's a lion do?
All right, let's be fearsome and roar!
Pretty good, pretty
Thank
good.
you.
And your third choice of animal
Okay.
is a very large animal and it has a big long nose like that. Anybody got any ideas what that might be?
Oh, I think that might be a trunk. Have you got it? I think that might be an elephant.
Okay, you know what it is, but can you make an elephant's noise?
A bit different every time, but we'll try this. Okay, I've got my trunk and...
Fantastic effort, very good. So folks, this is the point in the show where we have time for audience participation. So what we would like you to do, when I count down from 3, we would like you to show your choice of animal by making your animal's noise as loud as you possibly can. So if you think there were cows in this warehouse, moo as loud as you can. If you think it was lions, then roar as loud as you can. If you think it was elephants, then just make some weird random noise and we'll guess that that is the elephant. Okay, so are we ready to go?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. In 3, 2, 1, go!
Roar!
Pretty good, and I hope you are joining in with all of your animal noises out there. But you know what? whichever animal noise you made, you're all correct anyway. Because on market days, the trains brought farm animals up to the station, then they would be distributed across the city to be sold in different bits of Manchester. And on one special occasion in 1830, the circus came to Manchester by train for the very first time. And in our collection, we have an oil painting and some archive records all about when that circus train arrived at the station. And whilst they were unloading all of their materials, something weird happened. Something got stuck.
Okay.
So imagine this, okay? Take yourself back in time once again to early Victorian England. You're heading into the centre of Manchester for the very first time to see these amazing newfangled steam trains. You get to the top of Liverpool Road, you turn the corner, headed excitingly and expectantly towards the station. You look up and there's a giraffe hanging by a rope outside the front of the station because it got stuck when they were lifting it off the circus train. True story, Mira, and we have the oil painting to prove it.
Now, we're building more of these trains, but we don't just want to connect Manchester and Liverpool.
Oh, no.
We might get a bit bored of those two cities. So what we want to do is connect the entire country. And as we build more and more of these trains, we have to be very careful about how we do it.
Yeah.
We can't have really small trains that need small tracks. We've got big trains that need big tracks, because when a big train got to a small track, it's going to tumble off.
Oh dear.
That's not going to be good,
No.
is it? So what we're going to do is we're going to enter the age of precision, of mass manufacturing. And we need to make all of our machines very, very precise.
Okay.
From the tracks the trains are going on to the trains themselves, everything has to be made really carefully so we can spread around the entire country. And this needs to be all the way down to the itty-bitty screws keeping the tracks together.
Yep.
Now, Andy, have you seen a screw before?
I certainly have.
Excellent. You'll be good at this then. Do you remember the little spirally bit going up?
The twirly screw thread.
The screw thread.
Okay.
Oh, believe it or not, that screw thread was invented right here in Manchester. Before then, builders, engineers, they would just have all sorts of different screws sticking everything together. But then along came a man called Joseph Whitworth, and he invented a screw thread that we now use all over the world. So now these screws will keep all the tracks together, and we can spread them across all of Manchester and the rest of the world.
Fantastic. Now, as the 20th century approached, engineers and scientists in Manchester got involved in other forms of transport. In our Revolution Manchester Gallery, we have one of the first Rolls-Royce cars ever built anywhere in the country. And it was built in Hume in South Manchester in 1906. And just after that, a brand new company moved into one of the old disused mill buildings in Ancoats, and they started to create one of the latest forms of transport which took the 20th century by storm, and the era of aviation and the aeroplane arrived in Manchester. Now, there's one Mancunian who definitely needed his plane to be made to the highest standards possible, because in 1919, a man called Jack Alcott from Seymour Grove in South Manchester, he became the first human being to fly all the way non-stop across the Atlantic Ocean. He set off with his navigator and his mascot, Lucky Jim the cat, just over there in Canada. Then they flew all the way across the Atlantic Ocean and ended up safely in Ireland. Now, admittedly, once the train landed, it did tip over and everybody fell out into a bog, but they still managed to fly all the way across the Atlantic Ocean in one go. And to commemorate that epic flight by a Mancunian, we are now going to attempt to fly some stuff across this area. Now, the first thing I'm going to attempt to fly is going to be made out of this stuff. So, any idea what I could be making here, Mira?
Well, that's a piece of paper.
Yep.
You're folding it.
I am.
Oh, I've got an idea. Is it going to be a paper aeroplane?
Well, yes, it is, actually, yeah. And you know what? Because we work at this museum, we get the chance to go on some amazing courses. And there's one dedicated to building the most incredible paper aeroplanes you could ever imagine. But unfortunately, that course was running when it was my day off. So I'm rubbish at making paper aeroplanes. And that's about as good as it gets from me. So Mira, do you think this is going to fly?
I can't say I've got much promise in it.
Okay, do you think it might need some help?
Oh, yeah, I think so. That's not going to do it.
Okay, so fortunately today, I've come tooled up with my leaf blower.
Oh,
So
lovely.
let's see if we can produce enough wind to make my paper thing fly all the way across the pretend Atlantic Ocean. Mira, can I have a countdown from three, please?
Definitely. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that was absolutely terrible, wasn't it?
Crashed in the ocean.
But you know what? If Jack Alcock's plane had been built and designed this badly, he too would have ended up plopping in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Because his engineers, they realised that because you have to get a plane to fly all that distance, the plane has to be designed precisely. The sides, the fuselage, that has to be as smooth as possible to reduce air resistance. The wings, they have to be curved and rounded precisely to generate all the lift needed to keep the plane in the air for that huge distance. So, Mira, have we got anything that's smooth, curved and round that I could try and fly next?
Smooth,
Any
curved,
ideas?
round. What about the beach ball that crash landed in the warehouse?
That beach ball,
Let's
the
give it a
inflatable
go.
beach ball. Let's give it a go. Okay.
All right, beach
So,
ball to you.
I'm not holding out much hope for this, folks, but we'll give it a go just
Do
for
it.
you. Okay, here we go, Mira. Can I have another countdown from
Of course
3?
you can. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that appears to be working. Here we
that's
go.
pretty
Let's
incredible.
go.
It's going across the ocean, just like Jack. Annie, come back. Where's he gone? Where's he gone? Can you see him? Where is he? Oh, and he returns to us. That is incredible.
Why, thank you. So you can see, if something is designed and built correctly, it does its job, as witnessed by our incredible flying beach ball. Mr. Banu and his principal never lets you down. He was a genius.
There we have. So we're building our planes, we're building our trains. They're getting faster and faster, and we're getting more and more of them. But we're having to build all of these with our noggin, with our brain.
Yeah.
And humans are getting a bit tired. We're not able to keep up with how quick
That's
our
correct.
machines are. So we're going to need something else to come along and help us out.
Okay.
A machine to build even better machines. And it
sounds
was the computer. We have now entered an age of computing.
Fantastic.
Now, computers are quite special to us here at the museum, and you might have seen this already today. When you were walking into work, when you went into our gallery, you looked to the side, did you see something about 7 fridges long? There was maybe blinking lights, lots of dials, little screen in the middle.
I think you might be talking about the Manchester Baby, Mira.
Exactly right. If you come to our museum in Manchester, you will see the Manchester Baby. That is really, really special. It was built at the University of Manchester in 1948, and it is the first computer with a stored memory. This means that the Manchester Baby would take the information you gave it, remember it, and building it. Everything today you can imagine, your emails, your banking apps on your phone, your YouTube videos like you're watching us right now, started with the Manchester Baby computer. Now, Baby remembers all of this information in something called code.
Okay, code.
Now, it's a special code. This code has ones and this code has zeros. Any idea?
No, it's not HTML. That's like
the web
internet.
thing,
Stuff. Right,
yeah.
okay. Ones and zeros. Binary code.
It is indeed binary code. Now, computers talk in binary code. That is how they remember their information. But code can be all sorts of different things. It's a way of taking information, changing it a bit, making it look like something else.
Okay.
Now, you're quite clever here, Andy. I'm sure everyone watching us are really clever too. So I have a game for all of you, a bit of a challenge. Because me and Baby, we've been having a chat.
Okay.
And Baby Computer's really fond of their movies right now. Do you like
Brilliant.
movies?
I do. I love a good film.
Brilliant. Well, you'll be great at this then. Because what Baby has done is Baby has told me their 3 favourite films, but
Okay.
they've disguised them, they've hidden them in a computer code, in a special code. It's called emojis.
Ah, right. Okay. I'm
think
good at
you've
that.
got this one.
Yeah.
We've got this. So what I want from Annie and from all of you watching us too is you're going to see some emojis on screen. I want you to try and unscramble them. Work out what film Baby Computer is trying to tell us about. You shout it out in your classroom, shout it out at home, and Andy will shout it out here too. And we'll see what we can come up with and talk like a computer. Are you ready for the challenge?
I'm ready for level 1, Mira.
Let's start off. Can we have level 1? Let's see what's going on here.
Okay, so we've got a person. That could be a man. Right, it's not Iron Man. Oh, right, I
No.
can see the bug.
What's
It's
the
got
bug?
to be Spider-Man.
Have you got it? Are we ready? It is Spider-Man. Excellent work. Good
Fantastic.
work, everyone. I hope you all got it over there.
Level 1 achieved.
Now, let's make it a bit trickier. You're
Okay.
onto the system here. Now let's make it a bit trickier with 3 emojis. Let's try level 2.
Okay, let's see what we've got. Okay, everybody out there, let's see. We have a beautiful person and we have some Zs.
What's a Z? What's
that
going on
going on
there?
there? Oh, Zs. Could that be like snoring? All right, so it's something to do. Oh, right, I've got it. I think everybody else out there might have got it as well.
Okay.
Is it Sleeping Beauty?
Have you got it? Are you ready? It is indeed Sleeping Beauty. Excellent work. I hope you all got it over there.
Level 2.
Well, you're absolutely amazing. I'm sure you're amazing too. So we aren't going to have a level 3. not even having 4 or 5 or 6 or 7,
No.
because you're too good. We are going to go to the last level that we can possibly give you as we try and work out what Baby Computer's favourite film of all time is. Let's have a go at the boss level. Are we ready? Oh, a lot going on here.
Okay, right. Okay, so we've got a funny-looking house. It might be a hotel or it could be a castle.
Could be.
Some dodgy-looking twins,
Very creepy.
a maze, some snow, a frozen man at the end of the film.
I know
Near
you've
it.
got an
Is it my
idea.
favourite?
What is it?
Is it The Shining?
No.
Oh, right,
Much
okay.
more snow.
Twins, right, yeah. Is it Frozen?
Have you got it? Are you ready? It is indeed Frozen. Excellent work, Andy, and excellent work, all of you watching us. You've cracked a code. You've spoken like a computer.
Well done. We
me
have
about
cracked
those
the
films.
Manchester Babies code. So, everybody, what have we seen? We have seen that Manchester has been the home to some incredible innovations and discoveries over the last few hundred years. From machinery in the cotton industry, steam engines, steam trains, motor cars, aeroplanes, and the age of computing. And of course, over the last 50 years, some of the greatest music ever released anywhere on the planet, and a few good TV programmes as well.
Very good.
But you know what, Mira, and everybody else out there? Manchester's legacy for creating amazing discoveries continues to this very day, because during the 21st century, scientists at the University of Manchester have come up with an amazing discovery. They have discovered an amazing new material. It is the thinnest known material to humankind. It is incredibly strong and it can conduct electricity. So have you heard of graphene, Mira?
That super thin stuff. I
The
have heard of
super
graphene.
thin graphene material, exactly right. And now, graphene is a material made up of single layers of carbon atoms. And when those carbon atoms are laid out in their layer, they are incredibly thin. As you can see from the screen, we've got those carbon atoms laid out in their hexagonal pattern. But that thin layer of carbon atoms is still incredibly strong and can conduct electricity. And it has a huge number of applications. It can be used in materials, all sorts of different branches of science. So for example, imagine a car made using graphene. That means its mass would be incredibly low. And that means that it would only need a tiny amount of fuel to power its motion. And that would be very, very good for the environment. Graphene also has applications in battery technology, computing, and medical applications. And research still continues at the University of Manchester into this wonderful material. Now, do you know what, Mira?
Go on, yeah.
There may be somebody out there watching this live stream right now that could end up at the University of Manchester working in the graphene department. And maybe they could come up with the latest discovery using that wonderful material, because anybody can be a scientist just using their scientific skills. And so graphene can be used in all sorts of different things, all sorts of different materials. And imagine this. In 100 years' time, when visitors come to our museum, it could be one of those people out there's faces next to an exhibit because they have invented something incredible. Or it could be somebody out there's story that is being told at our museum because they've done something beautiful to make the world a better place. Thank you, everybody. That was your Revolution Manchester show.
I've been Mira.
And I've been Andy, and now it is up to us to hand you back to our wonderful moderator, Kieran, and we are ready to answer any questions that you have for us.
Thank you very much. That was brilliant. Very informative. We have some questions in the chat, if I can just ask you.
Okay.
So the first question we got was one that I was actually wondering myself, and that was, what is the favorite thing that you have in your museum's collection?
Do you want to go first, Mira?
Oh, my favourite thing in our museum collection is probably we have a really cool clock. And this clock has 2 faces on it. And that's because back in the cotton mills, we had a clock to track time and we had a clock to track cotton production. So the amount of cotton coming through our machines. And that was only the workers could leave when the clock had finished. That was actually for the production. And that's a pretty cool clock.
Absolutely right. My particular favourite exhibit goes back to the last thing that we were talking about in the show, the material graphene. Because in our exhibit in the Revolution Manchester Gallery, we have a block of graphite that was used in that department, and we also have the roll of sellotape, which helped create that graphene. So that is my particular favourite exhibit.
Another interesting question here. is somebody was wondering what exactly does an explainer do at the museum? So, what's your
We
day to day kind of role?
Yeah, we do many, many things. So the major part of our role is science communication. So during our day at the museum, we can be on gallery, working one-to-one with visitors, showing them little experiments, doing little activities with them. We also perform public shows 3 or 4 times a day, depending on the time of year. We have standard shows, our Revolution Manchester show, which you've just witnessed, but we also have seasonal variations where we can do different shows. We also have visiting scientists coming in and working on gallery, and we support those. So it's a very, very varied day. We also have schools activities. So we run a session in a classroom-based environment for schools to come and visit us. And we also do outreach work where we go out into schools and other settings to work with children and young adults using science communication skills.
It's a very varied role, lots of stuff going on.
Here's another very interesting question. Um, which of the Manchester discovery or events do you think has had the greatest impact to change the world?
That is a really good question,
It
that
is.
one.
I think I think the one that's had the biggest impact that we can actually see now is the Manchester Baby, because obviously all of the devices that we use today trace their history back to that single machine. And that was produced through a competition where people were trying to design a computer that had a memory that you could use and store information in. And from that single machine developed the world of computing that we have today. And obviously modern society wouldn't be the same without it.
Going back a little bit further than that, we also have something called a jacquard loom, and this is a weaving machine to make lots of different pattern cloths, but there's hole punches that are going to tell us where these different colours are going, and those hole punches that we have here in the museum was actually the start of coding. And when people were making computers, they came and looked at how weaving machines used to work and code different patterns, and that's where they got the ideas from computers. So a little legacy of discoveries
Yeah,
there.
it was actually Ada Lovelace that first saw that jacquard mechanism, and she was speaking to Charles Babbage, who came up with the number engine that he created, and she suggested to him that this could be a way of getting the number engine to do different sorts of activities. So it was the first time anybody wrote or talked about programming a machine to do jobs.
An interesting question here from Anna. She wants to know what is your favorite bit of science to discuss with visitors?
I have one of the little things that we do around the museum is called a curiosity stop, where we do little experiments for people on a little table. And the one that I love doing is to do with polarized light. So using 2 polarizing filters, you can make sellotape go from being transparent and colourless to being an amazingly bright and colourful pattern material. And that is the favourite thing that I love doing, because it has that huge impact on people and is always a wow moment whenever you reveal the colours.
I love anything to do with space, and we have a giant gravity well in our museum, which we get out on the weekend. So if you come to our museum, come on a weekend. And what our gravity well does is it shows us how a black hole works. A big piece of fabric, put a weight in it, and we get to send lots of different particles and little baby astronauts also into our black hole. Talk a little bit about Hawking radiation and how space works with that way. So that's quite a fun one that we can all do together with our visitors.
Somebody's actually asked here, is there still an example of the cotton machines that they would have used years ago uh, available to sort of see at the museum?
Oh yes, in our textiles gallery, we have a textiles pit, is what we call it, with all the machines that you need to go from everything from the raw cotton that we get coming into Manchester to the actual fabric and the cloth that we make at the end. We can go through the entire process with you. We actually have a special public show about this when we talk about working in the mills and talking about the machines. And our amazing gallery maintenance team look after all of these machines too and keep them running so we can have this little bit of history alive with us. So you can come and see the machines in action and working here too.
Another question is around the graphene, and somebody wants to know: do you both think that years from now they will look back at the sort of invention of graphene the way we're looking back now at cotton machines and those developments, would it really be that significant?
Absolutely. I mean, the discovery of graphene was a huge moment in the history of science. But the biggest moment, I think, with graphene is yet to come, because it is still really, really difficult to manufacture graphene. In fact, the scientists discovered graphene whilst using 2 bits of sellotape with graphite in between them and pulling it apart repeatedly until they got a fine enough layer of graphite, which was graphene. And at the moment, that is still the only way of manufacturing graphene, I think, at the moment. So I think the big change with graphene will come when somebody comes up with a way of industrialising the manufacture of graphene. And that will be a sea change.
Yeah, because there's so many applications of it too. Like, it's not just talking about computers, we're talking about building bricks and cars and all sorts. That because it's so spread out, it's going to be a massive change. One, as Andy said, we managed to not have to just use sticky tape to get lots of graphene.
So do you think that that will be the next big revolution?
I think so. I think
Absolutely.
it's happening right now already.
Yeah.
The Graphene Institute at the University of Manchester, we're starting to experience with it now. So it is definitely going to kick off lots of different things, like a ripple effect of different graphene inventions.
And we actually have scientists from the Graphene Institute in the museum today working with members of the public. So we'll ask them later. And if we find out any more information, we'll pass it on and put it in the chat.
We'll get back to you.
Okay, well, I think that's us for questions. Uh, Thank you very much, both of you, for your time. I found it extremely interesting. Hopefully, I'll get a trip over to Manchester and you can give me a live tour of the museum.
That would be delightful.
Um, it was very, very informative. So I'm just going to thank all the attendees for attending the webinar. I think you can agree both of our speakers today were just fantastic, very enthusiastic, and just really brought it to life. Thank you everybody for adding your questions into the chat. This session has been recorded and it will be uploaded to the Nerve Center YouTube page, so you can rewatch it later if you wish. Uh, for any of you that have subscribed to that, there we will be sending you a link of the resources via email. So all's left for me to do is just to thank the explainers and the Science and Industry Museum in Manchester for what has been just a very exciting session.
Well, thank you very much for having us. It's been brilliant.
Absolutely. We've thoroughly enjoyed it and enjoyed sharing all of our knowledge that we've got with you all. And please, if you get the chance, get yourselves over to Manchester and come and visit us in our museum. Thanks again for watching.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye now.
Bye now.